Growing up in the days of VHS and then the DVD revolution, the work of master of horror Wes Craven was always in abundance on video store shelves. And to a young film fan, looking up at the shelves and seeing the awesome artwork on his film's VHS and DVD covers, as well as the really cool posters that hung in the stores, it was inevitable that I wanted to watch them all. We were getting Nightmare on Elm Street sequels on a very regular basis, which Craven launched, having directed the original film.
This is God.
And then later in the series, the celebrated sequel, Wes Craven's New Nightmare in 1994.
Miss me?
And in the mid-90s, Craven created the mega successful Scream franchise, having co-written and directed Scream 1 through 4 from 1996 to 2011.
You like scary movies?
Uh-huh.
And obviously I don't need to tell you how popular that series remains to this day, with new sequels still in the works, well after Craven's departure from this world in 2015. With Freddy and with Ghostface, Craven created a legacy in horror.
You shouldn't have buried me. I'm not dead.
And his name adorned the titles of so many movies that Craven's name became a byword amongst horror fans. And for a lot of fans like myself, his name became more important than the movie itself. It wasn't have you seen Vampire in Brooklyn with Eddie Murphy, it was have you seen the new Wes Craven movie.
Put a little heart into it.
And in 1991, from the maestro of the macabre, we got a new movie. The work I want to discuss this episode is the unforgettable Wes Craven's The People Under the Stairs. Director Wes Craven always seemed to me to come across as a mild-mannered, cool-headed, and intelligent guy when we got to see him in interviews.
Well, I think, some people often ask me, why do people want to go and be scared? My answer is that people don't want to go and be scared. They are scared. That we have resident fears, from real things. I mean, let's not forget real life,
In talking about his career, he often discussed his past. Craven was an academic in the late 1960s, teaching English and humanities, and also taught high school before his break came in 1971, writing and directing the notorious horror film Last House on the Left with his business partner, Sean S. Cunningham, who would of course go on to helm Friday the 13th. Although his start came in horror, Craven worked in documentary, industrial, advertisements, and earned his chops the hard way, cutting other people's films in New York City in the early to mid-1970s. Craven was influenced, as many filmmakers of his generation, by the new art house cinema of the European New Wave and Ingmar Bergman, having borrowed Bergman's themes and story for Last House on the Left from the same source material that Bergman used for his film The Virgin Spring.
It's kind of like looking for a balance within that, but there's a lot of other mythologies that are in the world, and when I was teaching college, I was kind of teaching mythology as one of my courses, so you see a lot of similarities of the sort of the struggle to kind of depict in fiction and in simpler formats the complexity of human beings.
If it was good enough for Bergman, it was good enough for Craven. And then after a few failed projects that were outside of the horror genre, Craven wrote and directed The Hills Have Eyes, which was to finally cement his name in the horror genre for good.
Baby's fat. You fat. That juicy.
By the time we get to The People Under the Stairs, Craven is clearly a competent and even experimental craftsman. Not only was he now showing great skill with the camera, but for me, in People Under the Stairs, we begin to see a director who is working with child actors, such as A.J. Langer, who was 17 at the time of filming,
Burn in hell.
and Brandon Q. Adams, who was 11 or 12 years old when filming began.
I'm trying, Mama.
And not only is he directing them very well, but he is getting quite amazing performances from this young cast. And just to take a step back for a moment, in the mid-section of Craven's career, he directed several movies of the week for television, such as Summer of Fear in 1978 starring Linda Blair,
She's got kind of pretty.
The Exorcist fame, which had a small theatrical release in Europe.
Really? That's an interesting area. The bed of a lot of folklore and mysticism.
And also Chiller with Michael Beck, Beatrice Straight, and Paul Sorvino, which was directed in 1985. And although these movies couldn't contain gore and were shot on low budgets in just a few weeks or even a few days for television, I think they show a shift in Craven's career, as he had to get good performances from his casts in these movies.
I had to see for myself.
Because on television, the performances have to carry the movies due to this lack of effects and budget.
If you are Miles Creighton, and you really have been called back, then yes, you've seen the other side.
I'll tell you what's on the other side. Nothing. So you better live it up, holy man. Make the most of the here and now, because that's all there is.
And for me, these TV movies, although dated and quite simple in their techniques, I think are important to the success of his later works, as this is where we begin to see Craven shine as a director of actors.
I tell you something. You're a liar. What I believe is true, and will always be true.
And these movies sometimes get marginalized in his career, but I think without them, we may not have gotten these great performances in People Under the Stairs from untrained or actors very early in their careers.
I thought you were dead. Like, why you was just laying there?
A man ain't dead just because he's laying on the floor.
I think these TV films are essential viewing for Craven fans.
Well,
are we all talking about the same Rachel?
Carolyn!
As this is where he began to perfect his directing techniques with actors that became a great asset in his future works, and I think especially in People Under the Stairs. Looking at Craven's past as an academic and teacher, and then his progression through TV, learning how to shape actors' performances and learning filmmaking techniques through his low-budget horror projects. When we get to the likes of Nightmare on Elm Street, and then essentially People Under the Stairs, we see a culmination of factors that now really begins to show a societal context to his work.
It was just trying to get a handle on this idea that is sometimes, in my mind, part of a sort of the Republican way of looking at the world, very paternalistic.
Do you love your mother?
Yes, ma'am.
Lots of guns, and thinking of the minorities as kind of dirty and stupider, and
That's all right.
No, run along.
and the price of that, and how important it is to try to get our mind outside of that paradigm and look at everybody as a potential resource for building our own humanity.
People Under the Stairs contains many themes and ideas about society, capitalism,
Fireplace, lots of nice
Money.
and money.
Freudian ideas of sex, and the class divides that create tension and prejudice between people.
Go straight to your room and get into your suit.
And these are all themes that make People Under the Stairs an important work because it showcases ideas and theories about why we are who we are.
You want to be stupid, Leroy? You don't need food for that.
Or you want your family eating beans out in the street.
And points out a lot of problems in society about how it is often the ultra-rich who help create crumbling houses for low-income families, unaffordable healthcare for the masses,
Take care of the kids, Dexter.
and force people to make choices between right and wrong.
You're the man of the house now.
Like Fool, the protagonist of the movie, who wants to be a doctor and help people but is forced into becoming an accomplice to a break-in in order to pay his family's rent and be able to pay for an operation that his mother needs in order to survive.
You know your mama got a cancer in her she can't afford to have taken out? Yeah, the thing any doctor could take out just like that, but you ain't got no money.
I think Craven is saying that there is a blurry line between what is good and bad, and that people are often forced into extreme situations such as committing crimes to simply survive. And this is one of the main reasons I love this movie. It has so much to say about society, and how once you step inside the life of the varnished veneer and successes and riches that the landlords project in the movie to the outside
We
authorities,
can prevent just one child from being abused.
Absolutely right.
Cream and sugar.
they are actually a lot worse than the petty criminals who have to steal back from them in order to survive. All Fool is doing is stealing back from them what they have already stolen from society.
Touched the nerve It was, in some ways, it was similar times to now. There's this very acute consciousness of how much money just a very small portion of the population have, and how everybody else is struggling to put food on their table and keep their houses and things like that.
No wonder there's no money in the ghetto.
So during those times, a film like this has a real relevance, I think.
It's a fable about the decay and the true horror that lies behind the closed doors of this incestuous upper-class family, as we find out later in the movie that who we thought were man and wife are actually brother and sister.
Wait a minute, brother and sister?
Brother and sister.
A truly chilling revelation, and one that makes the moment that man touches himself in his leather outfit while in the attic all the more horrifying.
The corrupt sexuality, I mean, it was an inverted relationship.
What do I do with the mommy?
It is time to clean house!
I think if you isolate yourself so much from sort of the rest of culture because of secrets, you know, and again, secrets can be just kind of crushing to the health of the psyche, and you end up, you know, the land of banjo and guitar duets. You know,
this family is truly disturbed, and it takes Fool, who truly has the heart of gold, rather than a basement full of gold coins, to set things right.
I don't want to kill you, but I will, because I don't like you much anyway.
Craven was a master at subtext and theme, and People Under the Stairs shows us a filmmaker at the apex, just about to break the horror world wide open in a few years with Scream. But to me, this has always been his most accomplished film. It's the bridge between low-budget horror and studio superstardom that will come with the last decades of his career. It is a work that contains Craven's continuous themes of messed up family dramas and family values, such as we see in Last House and The Hills Have Eyes.
You wait till you get to be a man.
And these show themes that relate to his own family life. Craven came from a very strict household and lost his aggressive father at a very young age. I think People Under the Stairs is one of his most personal and message-driven films that shows us a uniquely talented and smart director at work.
The People Under the Stairs had a lot of elements from my own life, only exaggerated. In that, I was raised as a fundamentalist Baptist. There was no smoking, drinking, playing cards, dancing, anything, anything like that. So, and you know, my mother wasn't like that quite, but she was very, very conservative and very disapproving of almost everything I did. My father died when I was very young, so there really wasn't that. But I do have memories of him being very frightening. Those elements crept in, and you know, the idea of, it was also the time of I believe, the first Bush. People Under the Stairs was one of my more unfettered personal works.
Wes Craven's The People Under the Stairs shows us that horror can have a wider message about the culture and society that we live in. And in the vein of the protests and political upheavals that Craven lived through of the 60s, 70s, and 80s, it's a film about the bigger picture, instead of being self-minded and introvert, like most horror appears to be to me today.
Go back to reading your book. What's wrong? Nothing you can do. Go on.
This film is about us all as a society, and the thin line that keeps us all from tearing ourselves apart in the streets.
You can't even afford to pay rent. How the hell are you gonna afford to send him to medical school?
And that is, for me, what makes it a masterpiece of horror from the one and only Wes Craven. He's a director that had something to say, and that's what makes him a maestro of the macabre.
There's been some fantastic literature and art and movies done about this side of the human experience. So take everything that you loved about what you're learning and teaching and just put it in there in a way that's not onerous and not preachy, and there will be a smart audience that will see it.
Thanks for watching this brief take on Wes Craven's The People Under the Stairs. If you would like to see more films about Craven and other filmmakers, please remember to like and subscribe. Also, consider supporting the channel with the Super Thanks option, which can be found below the video. And please let me know your thoughts in the comments, and as always, thanks so much for listening.